What is the 21st century, and how does difference of opinion and policy matter in relation to climate and societal, social and economic, cultural differences played out on the scale? How does corporate interest relate to natural energy resources and biofuel production, as well as carbon production in the 21st century? How does the Equality Act to gay, lesbian, and transgender, whose rights have already been established by Barack and Michelle Obama, launder away from environmental conservation? How does nuclear energy, nuclear fusion energy resources launder away from green solar energy resources such as solar and wind energy? Can gay and lesbian civil union legislation be made affordable through social ordeal act civil legislations through another bilateral agreement that does not take away from the environment and ecological concern trusts? How does our environment affect the future of cultural civilization, poverty, and civil earnings on a mass scale? How does this affect the pay-load gap between women and sexual gender majority? How does corporate buyouts affect ecological concerns and the gender gap? Gross domestic GDP exports, knowing that we need allies, and we need trusts, we need foreign trust. Industry matters, but what else matters is forging trust between allies and constitutions. How does nation abide by corporation and gross domestic product export by Chinese infrastructure, natural and non-renewable resources import to the United Kingdom? How does Brexit constitute to the National Atlantic Treaty Association? How does communism, westward and southward Europe, affect our policies after World War II? What constitutes satellite state regimes, and how do they affect the way we live and the way that we reside, and how our policies are formed? What are satellite states? What is technological evolution in the 21st century. How does that relate to gross domestic product export to foreign enterprise? How can we relate that into our global and domestic budgeting, including fMRI and EEG implants? How can we stand up and shout out that the new era is going to constitute to global discrimination against special assets, and it will be and transgender majority, as well as those on the gay and lesbian front, as well as those on the gender gap. And it will be tied to 5G. Black community assets and immigrants could be discriminated as well. How are immigration policies be formed under new era constituents, and how does ecological assets tied to immigration? How will cisgender men cisgender assets imports affect ecological growth and economic prosperity when there are children and families dying of cancer and dying of heat stroke on the border in genocide camps, as well as prison facilities? How can we stand for the 21st century mandate to transgender fraternity leadership and feminist values? Stand strong, because your nation is with you. Your nation is a global democracy, and your culture, values, and ideological concerns matter. You're not alone. Global engineering and innovation to the 21st century matter. When you stand for a foreign ally, you stand for others' beliefs, faiths, and opinions. When you stand for a nation in solitude, you stand up for that nation's culture. You stand up for that nation's person who's in suppression, who's in prosperity, and who's practicing their ideologies, beliefs, and religious values. You stand for your own sovereignty and the sovereignty of theirs. We're not going to allow the hate to manifest in the 21st century like we did the 20th. The 20th century brought concerns including war, terrorism, gulags, and concentration camps. How will we difference the 21st century? How will we difference the 21st century in a way that we can aspire, and afford better opportunities for our children and future generations? What is the maximum threat to our global civilization? Climate change. Climate change. What is the united threat to our global civilization? Climate change. Discrimination is an asset to climate change. Why? Because discrimination plays a key role in economic growth and future prosperity, including tying assets to trust and laundering. We need our nations to rise up and speak out for those who can commit to talent and better lives for those in the African American community and those immigrants who can speak for themselves, knowing that some of them can be under slander warrants and some of them can be under lockdown for being transgender and using the restroom of their privilege, and standing up and shouting out that unity is prosperity, and prosperity is what we believe in. When gun violence escalates, what do we need to do? Bring it down. We need to cancel gun violence by illegalizing weapons, arms, and ammunition in our nation, and fraternity leadership, which is a world resonating today, including out in the Middle East. We need to understand that communism is a global value and democracy is a given, and the freedom of right and prosperity and liberty. Communism and democracy will go together. When we stand up and voice our opinions and ideology together, we stand up for those of difference of faith, difference of gender core identity, and difference of sexual orientation. We stand up for those of nationality, those of sexual origin, and those of skin color. We're not alone. We're not going to slander one person's campaign, and we're not going to put another person down. We will fight against a global entity, which is Osama bin Laden, which is the cisgender race itself. We will rise up and love one another, whether they're cisgender and transgender, that's dichotomy. We will stand up and love one another, whether they're gay, lesbian, trans, bisexual, pansexual, or straight. We will forge bilateral agreements and allies and partnerships and trust gains and values like we did the 20th century. We will not allow another dictatorship to rise in the EU like we allowed in the 20th century. We will allow us to love and accept the Muslim hijab resonating for what it is and the values it represents. Islam means to surrender. Surrender to what? Values and faith and partnership. We will love you. We will love you for who you are. We will stand for him and stand partnership with Ilhan Omar and her faith to humanity. She will always fight for us and watch over for us and pledge her allegiance to Somalia. She is a refugee and we are refugees in Samsara. We will love each other and we will continue to make our journey forward, knowing that the 20th century is not the 21st, and we will continue to advance our global civilization and innovate creativity and philosophical new ideas and hopes that children will become essence of light, hope, humanity.